This is a render before post-processing in Photoshop, and this is the same render after post-processing in Photoshop. If you are interested in learning several techniques to achieve this result, this tutorial is for you, so let's get started. This is the JPEG image as it was rendered. I render it with a black background so I can replace it with a real picture for the sky. Let's bring it into our canvas. The first thing you want to do when working with images is to convert them for small filters, so you can keep their original quality, no matter if you enlarge or reduce their size. I need to move this image behind the render, but the image is locked as a background. To unlock it, double-click the layer, rename it to something like base layer, and now you are able to move it freely. I will move the sky below, and now we need to get rid of the black background. So let's go to Select, Low Selection, choose the sky channel and hit OK. The sky is perfectly selected, so create a layer mask based on that selection. Wait, what? You don't have those channels to select? Well, I made a video all about creating masks in Blender and importing them into Photoshop, so you should definitely check that tutorial, because we will use a lot of masks in this one. You may notice that the mask is inverted. It selected the house instead of the sky. To fix this, simply select the mask and press Ctrl-I to invert it. Now let's scale the sky using Ctrl-T. Hit Enter to apply and position the sky where you want it. That's perfect. One more thing, I would like to desaturate it a little bit to match the overall saturation of the render. Now that we have the sky, let's select the whole canvas with Ctrl-A, copy all layers with Ctrl-Shift-C, and paste the result with Ctrl-V. With this image, we are ready to convert it into a smart object, which will allow us to edit using the Camera Raw filter while keeping all adjustments editable. Let's apply the Camera Raw filter. The most common workflow is to go from the top tab downwards. In the Light tab, we have controls to make pixels darker or brighter. I usually start by adding some contrast, which makes light pixels lighter and dark pixels darker. I also decrease the highlights, which makes bright pixels slightly darker. This helps recover details in bright areas like the sky and sunlit walls. In the Color tab, you can make simple general adjustments. I will slightly lower the vibrance. Vibrance adjusts the saturation of midtones, whereas saturation affects all tones equally, shadows, midtones, and highlights. In the Effect tab, we have some very useful options. I generally start by adding a vignette. Then I increase clarity, which enhances edge contrast, making objects more distinct. Next, I add a bit of texture, which increases local contrast, making textures appear multi-tailored. Finally, I slightly decrease the haze, which adds a subtle white haze to soften previous effects. In the Curves tab, you can fine-tune pixels values, but in this case I like the general look and won't modify anything here. However, we will use curves adjustment layers later. In the Color Mixer, you can adjust hue, saturation, and luminance by color groups. This is very useful, but in this case I won't use it, as we will adjust colors using adjustment layers. The Color Grading tab is great for creative looks, especially for photography. It lets you add color to shadows, midtones, and highlights separately. I use this a lot for photography, but not much for rendering. In the Detail tab, you can add sharpening to the image. The Depth Range tab isn't useful for renders since chromatic aberration is a real-world camera effect, so we won't use this. The Lens Blur tab is still in early access, but we don't want to add blur. Blur is always better applied directly in Blender. Finally, we have the Calibration tab. This is a powerful tool for photography, but I don't use it much for rendering. So that was an overview of the Camera Raw filter. You can compare the before and after by toggling the filter on and off. As you can see, the difference is subtle. the goal is to build up small refinements rather than making drastic edits. If your render requires heavy editing to look good, you probably need to fix it in Blender. Now let's modify the color of the trees and plants. Go to Select, Low Selection and choose your greenery channel. Now all the trees and plants are selected. With this selection, create a hue saturation adjustment layer. Select the yellow group and reduce the saturation. Now the trees blend better with the scene instead of standing out too much. Let's say your client wants to change the color of the bricks. We can use the same process. Create a hue saturation adjustment layer, but this time modify the master color group and shift the hue slightly towards yellow. I have a dirt texture here, so let's bring it into the canvas, convert it for a small filter and scale it using Ctrl T. Press Ctrl T again, right click and select Distort. Adjust it to match the perspective of the rendering. Now let's select the sidewalk. Create a layer mask and the texture will be applied only to the sidewalk. Go to the blending mode and select Multiply. This makes the white pixels transparent while keeping the dark ones visible. And now we have added some organic dirt to the sidewalk. I also have this image of a tree, which I will use to enrich the composition. Convert it for small filters, press Ctrl T and flip it horizontally. Place it where you like. If you don't like part of the image, create a layer mask and paint it over with a black brush to erase unwanted areas. One more thing is to add a hue saturation adjustment. Click here to apply it only to the tree, and I will tweak these values to make the imported tree match the original trees in the render. Okay, let's fix a few more details, like this color here, which should match the new color of the bricks. One last trick to make the house stand out. Create a curves adjustment layer, increase the brightness, then paint the mask completely black to disable it. Now, with a soft white brush, paint over the house and entrance to brighten only those areas. Create another curves adjustment layers, darken it, and paint around the house to create contrast. You can see that before, the image looked flat, but now the house really stands out. Finally, press Ctrl A to select the whole canvas, Ctrl Shift C to copy all layers, and Ctrl V to paste it as a new layer. I will turn off all the adjustments we made and keep only the original image with the sky. Now you can see the huge difference created by stacking small modifications. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like, subscribe and check out my Patreon. Thanks.